Right, very last go. Go home from work. That'll do. Automatic wipers on. And off we go. So what am I going to miss about the 6 Series? Well, first of all, the ironclad reliability. Well, of course, apart from when the filter cover explodes, that was a bit of a nuisance. But apart from that, you press the button, it goes, it gets you to where you want it to go. So yeah, I certainly miss that. I also miss all that power as well. I mean, the normally aspirated 4.8 litres, yeah, you get a bit of oomph for that, and some pretty low down power as well. That's what I love about it. It's just got all that tractable power. Such good road holding, even with these high crosswinds. Wet surface, a bit of standing water, no problem at all. Last time for the Ham Barn roundabout, always a good place to play. Well, the sky's gone really black now. Steptronic, 4th gear, a 3rd gear, 2nd even for the Ham Barn. We'll go nice and slowly round. Give that X3 behind some sort of hope that he can catch up. I'm tempting him, oh no, sorry, you didn't make it. There we go, full power. What a lovely car to drive, it really is. 3rd, 2nd gear, that's what we want. Have we got all the beans? Oh, blimey, we have. A bit of a loss of traction there, just for a couple of seconds, nothing to worry about. Yeah, I think that's the last of the spirited driving in the E64. All we got in front is slow slugs. So that'll have to do. So yeah, I was very lucky that someone got in touch and paid the £3 for the E64. It was certainly worth the money. He came round and his sister drove it off into the night, and it was goodbye 650. And now it's hello 650, yeah, but this time an F12. Now, is the F12 just a different shaped E64? No, not at all. No, it's a completely different car. The only thing that it shares with the E64 is the soft top. Yep, the soft top is exactly the same. Rear compartment's different, but the soft top itself is, yeah, absolutely exactly the same. Now, I've learnt my lesson on the soft top, and I'm getting a half cover for it, so I will cover up the soft top. Because let's face it, I don't think it's ever been outside in the rain or anything. It hasn't been anywhere much at all, really. And I've had a good look around the car, and you cannot find any dinks or donks. So what are my initial thoughts of the F12? Well, of course, you're going to get all the dire warnings about things dropping off, exploding and so on. I'm used to that with the E64. I got exactly the same warnings then when I moved from E38s to E64s. But we'll see. Yeah, with 13,000 miles on the clock, I think I've probably got a bit more chance with this one rather than a bit of a tired one. Very few of them come in this colour, so this is why I picked this one up straight away. You know me, I love the purples and the reds. So few and far between in this colour. And it was just the luck that it just happened to be one with 13,000 miles. I would have bought it even if it had 100,000 miles, because it's a beautiful looking car. Not my perfect choice for wheels, but I've grown to like them now. Actually, when you start cleaning a car and you start cleaning the wheels, you get a bit of a feel for them. Yeah, I'm growing to like. I hope I don't scratch an alloy, because I mean all 4 of them are absolutely perfect, not just including the face, but the barrels as well. It's absolutely ridiculous. I've never had a, I mean, it's a 13-year-old car and the alloys are like new. So it is someone who really looked after it, never took it out in the rain and so on. So yeah, so what's the big difference between an F12 and an E63 or E64? Well, just everything really. The drivetrain is completely different. Got 8 gears to start with, which is, yeah, a bit confusing, I must admit. I'm quite used to sticking it into a Steptronic, poking the gear stick forward a couple of times to go into a roundabout. Yep, you go into Steptronic and poke it forward, you're probably in 6th gear. Right, so coming up into the hand barn, down into what gear? Yeah, 6th gear, so left and forward is 6th. We're in 5th, 4th gear, that's giving us a bit of engine braking, that's nice. Got a Range Rover ahead, unfortunately, that is going to go slowly into that corner, I think. So we're getting round the outside, I think. Oh no, we've got a van in the way. Never mind, it was worth a go. Oh, that's nice, that is. Very nice indeed. Yeah, the Range Rover hasn't got a chance, has he, really? Yeah, the engine power is, I mean, you would have thought of a turbo, you're going to get turbo lag, but it is a twin small turbo, so it doesn't seem to be any lag at all. And when it takes off, it really does take off. It's a faster car than the E64, and that's saying something. I mean, the 4.8 litres of normally aspirated V8 in the E64 has got some oomph. Well, this has got more oomph. Yeah, I'm quite surprised. It's a lot quicker, mainly, of course, because of the 8 gears. That makes a huge difference to it. There's always loads of traffic out here. I reckon I could beat him. Blimey, we can as well. That was horrendously fast, I must admit. Driving it, well, driving it is, yeah, quite different as well. Now, when I drive the E31 and get into the E64, you think, the E31's so old, you know, it's got that feeling of a, you know, a 90s car, you know, it's, you get in the E64, yeah, that's tight as a bow. Yeah, well, this is tighter, a lot tighter. But it is very clever with the way that the active dynamics all work. I mean, that's quite new to me. The E64 had the ability to tighten up the steering and the suspension and all things like that. But this does it in such a clever way that you just don't get any body roll at all in it. It is quite spectacular how it works. Oh, he's turning left, so unfortunately we are a bit blocked up now. We're out though. It's lighter steering. That's one of the first things you notice. And sharper steering as well. So yeah, you don't need to turn the steering wheel too far, not like the E64. So if you're used to driving the E64, you're going to turn too sharply to start with. What's the drive like? Well, it's smooth, it's very quiet. A bit more disconnected than the E64, I must admit. But it's a lovely sunny day, good day to have the roof down. Other big difference, of course, is the instrument cluster is LCD in this, whereas the E64 is just standard dials and gauges. This is one big LCD, and that allows a few other clever things, which is you don't have to have the sat nav on the main screen, because the directions to go appear on the instrument cluster. Let's pop up and say on the second turning, leave the roundabout and so on. So that's all clever stuff. Now this is where I really start liking the F12 compared to the E64. I love the shape of the E64, apart from the boot or trunk. It was just too bulbous, the whole thing was. Yeah, it just didn't look right. From the front, it was $1 million, but from the back, nah, it just didn't look right. But they've certainly got it right now, and it's starting to look more like the sort of E31, the classic shape of a BMW, with the scalloped back, lights on the boot or trunk instead of it all being in the side there. All LEDs now, of course, no bulbs left over anywhere. Yeah, that is a lot better than the E64. Absolutely perfect. Now the eagle-eyed viewer, those in England of course, will spot there is a difference between this car and the one that was advertised when I bought it. Yes, there's one single difference that is a bit of a nuisance, but it was all part of the valeting and getting it ready to pick up. Yep, They made a mistake somewhere. I wonder if you can spot it. But I'll give you the original pictures from the garage and see if you can spot the difference. Yeah, bit annoying. Well, what about the interior then? What is the differences between this and the previous models? Well, it is extremely different. Yeah, it is very different inside altogether. It's more modern, and what I mean by that is it's now following the edict of modern BMWs. So it's got the same shifter, AC panel, radio panel, as for instance the 1 Series, even though it's extended further. So it's now got that sort of corporate identity, and it's the same with all the BMW range, whether it be the latest 8 Series or the 5 Series, they look pretty similar. One of the biggest differences is it's all electronic, and what I mean by that is that instead of having standard instruments, it has backlit LCD for it, so you get an uncluttered dials and so on until you turn it on, and then you get all sorts of weird stuff popping up. Now this sort of thing you can switch off if you like. That's the sort of distance to the next filling station that you need to get to. And an econometer, yeah, econometer on a 650. It sounds a bit daft, doesn't it? One of the big differences, just like the more modern BMWs, is the sort of mode selection. Now on the E64, we had a sport button and we could put it in sport, hardened up the suspension and the steering and so on. We get all sorts of going on, and you get told about it in the display as well. You're probably not going to see a great deal with the roof down, but press it into sport mode and they come up with a lot of blurb telling you all about what's going on and so on. Sport Plus, yeah, dynamic driving with sport orientated chassis and restricted driving stabilisation. Now that sounds like a recipe for disaster if you ask me. Yeah, leave it a couple of seconds, it goes back to whatever you had on the screen before. Back to sport, back to normal. So yeah, very much like all other BMWs now, with the different modes of driving and so on. Oh yeah, that was very nice, nice drive. I'll drive it now in sort of drive mode. I could try a different setting, couldn't I? How about sport mode? Well, we drop down a gear straight away. Yeah, the throttle becomes a lot more sensitive. That's one thing I don't like about sports mode, is it just gets a bit twitchy. You see a tiny little bit of throttle and off we went like a mad thing. Wow. And those valves open up as you put your foot down, so the engine sounds completely different. So we're in sport mode, but I'm not in Steptronic mode, so I've just got it in drive, and now we're trundling around, probably in second gear I should think, and that's a bit silly, so we're going to put it back into normal. Drop down 1 gear, drop down 2 gears, drop down 3 gears. So yeah, we're in what, 8, 7, 6, 5th gear. Doesn't sound like much, does it? But it's a bit daft when you're up at 2,500 RPM and you're just driving comfortably down the road. Back into normal, back into sport, configure sport, drivetrain and chassis. And do I want the drivetrain to, no, I don't want them both doing anything. Just the chassis to harden up, so I'm quite happy to change gears with the Steptronic. So the chassis is now hardened up, the steering wheel's a bit tighter, but the engine hasn't gone into silly mode, so I can press the throttle as normal. Now people may think that going into sport mode and adjusting the drivetrain makes you go faster. It doesn't in any other BMW either. All it does is make the throttle more sensitive. Now if it was 3rd gear that it locked into, I would have felt a bit happy. I wonder if those are the sort of things I can configure. Would be nice. Yeah, the chassis is certainly tight now, but ooh, yeah, very nice. Oh, we got all the power as well. Yeah, so everything is very different in here. Of course, we've got the standard electronic shifter now instead of the mechanical one on the E64. Now, of course, the E64 has a mechatronics gearbox, but it also had a cable that ran from the shifter to the gearbox, just like the E31s and all preceding BMWs relied on the mechanical input as much as the electronic one. Now, with this car and most modern cars, is that it's all electronic, so everything can be done from the shifter without actually moving anything in the gearboxes. So simple press on the button and pull back, and you're in drive, press button, push forward, and you're in reverse, press the P button, and you've parked, the parking brakes on, and so on. You get a lot more buttons, that is absolutely for sure, but it makes a lot more sense when you're driving along and trying to get to the nav screen, for instance. On the previous model, there's a lot of messing about, whereas in this, there isn't. You've got a nav button, telephone, CD, radio, and then back and option buttons. And of course, the usual multi-way and twisting iDrive controller. So yeah, the first one, not very intuitive. This one, a darn sight better. And you can go straight back to the nav screen by just, as long as you know where the button is, you don't have to look, just press and you know you're going to get the nav back up again. Of course, having an LCD instrument cluster means that you don't have to just rely on the main screen. When you're coming up to a junction, the nav messages will appear on the instrument cluster. So you get a picture of a roundabout and it tells you which exit to take and so on. And that's because they're using a large LCD for the instruments rather than just mechanical dials, even though they were electronically controlled in the E63 and 64. So yeah, very different. It's got an ashtray, little lid there. So never been used, so can be storing stuff in there if you want. And rather than the E64 with its strange lift up with two buttons that you never quite get right and you can't get your hand in it, it's got two buttons on this. And that makes a lot more sense. Let's go right wide screen there. So it's got a big cubby hole down there, goes back for miles. So give it your hand right in there. So a lot more storage. Got a place for your phone if you want it. And of course with the aux in and all the rest of it actually in there. It's got charger for the phone if you wanted it. So unlike modern BMW where it's got wireless charger, this has got a charging point and an aux in, and another little button there, not quite, oh, another cigarette lighter, so another power socket in there. That's didn't know that was there. That's interesting. So there you go, that's what you got in there. And of course the phone fully integrates with the car on the F12, so you can play your music through it without having to plug it in anywhere. As long as you've got your phone in the car, then you can select the car from the CD button, and you can choose to get the output from your phone rather than the CD player, and you can play whatever music stored in your phone in the car, which is quite nice. I quite like that. That's quite useful. So yeah, it's a strange view, isn't it, of the instrument cluster before you press the button and it all comes alive again. Can't see much in this light, but yeah, very interesting and different sort of feel to the car altogether. Initial thoughts on this car is that it's very different. I wasn't expecting that. I knew the gearbox was going to be different and the engine's different. Obviously, it's got two turbos in it. I wasn't expecting so much of a chassis change in it. It's very, very planted and very efficient. Bonnet opens in a slightly different way. Instead of BMW's usually way of lifting something up, yeah, you've got a little slidey catch. Yeah, and the first thing you think when you look under the bonnet of the F12 is, crikey, there is a lot of engine. And those two intercoolers at the front, yeah, they take up a lot of space. I wouldn't fancy working on that. Well, I thought exactly the same about the E64. When you've been working on an E31 for 20 years, every engine bay you look in, you think, oh, blimey, how'd you get to that? So I hope this isn't going to be as difficult as it looks. There's all sorts of plastic things you can take off. But of course, it's got braces here and there as well, like these big braces here for stability. Yeah, doesn't it look brand new in here? Look at the strut towers. And you go down and you find there's no oil or anything anywhere, no leaks. Yeah, it's a very strange situation for me having a car that I haven't cleaned that looks this clean. So yeah, it is essentially a brand new car. All of this stuff all looks new and shiny, not covered with grease and the grot you get off the road. Yeah, I expect we're going to have as much fun doing the lights on this as we did on the E64. Yeah, there's access for something, but not much. But you know, imagine the access for everything else. It's going to be a lot harder. Of course, it's got xenons and LEDs instead of xenons and tungsten lights. So you'd hope they're not going to fizzle out as quickly. So yeah, very much cluttered engine bay, but a nice looking engine bay. I did like the E64s. This is slightly better. It does look, again, more modern, like all the V engines. In the BMW range, it's got that flat cover and all the rest of it. Do like the face of it. It does look rather nice, doesn't it? Does look a bit more modern. And of course, it's got the white halos on it, very bright white halos, whereas the E63 and 64, yeah, you could put much what you liked in there. You can put a 5,000 watt LED in your halos and it still looks very dim. LED fog lights, so 3 elements to the LED fog lights. LED main beams, of course, on this. So yeah, be interesting. I haven't been out in the dark in it yet, so it'll be interesting to see. As you see, everywhere is perfect, isn't it? Yeah, never had a car with that clean alloys. Now, my alloys were clean and unmarked, but never having a barrel which was unmarked as well. That is crazy. Okay, so that's it for the first drive with the camera on. Yeah, enjoyed that. Getting more used to it now. Fantastic. So yeah, what do I think of the F12 so far? Yeah, excellent fun. It is a very nice car to drive. What else do I think? Well, it's not the E64. Now, the E64 was a brute. It really was a brute with its 6 gears and, you know, almost 400 horsepower, 364, something like that. It's got so much torque. Now, this wants to use its gears more, and that's very much like the whole BMW range now. The whole BMW range wants to use every gear. So even as the 1 Series has got 8 gears, and I thought it'd be just for the 1 Series. So it's got very little power. So it has to use the power band through all the gears. On an F12, yeah, 8 gears, yeah, a bit excessive if you ask me. I'd prefer to have the 6 gears, but of course you get better performance with 8 gears. It just makes it slightly harder using the Steptronic or the paddles to change gear. But yeah, in drive it seems to behave itself really well. The bit that was a bit noticeable was regenerative braking. It does stick the brakes on a bit. Well, it's not brakes, it's sticking an electric motor on to generate power for the battery. Now, that is a bit like an electric car where you take your foot off the throttle and the brakes are on. I'm going to have to get used to just feathering the throttle so that the regenerative braking doesn't come into play. Anyway, I'm very pleased with the F12. I love that drive home, yeah, with the roof down. Lovely. I need a wind deflector, yeah, there's no doubt about that. But anyway, put the thumbs up if that helped you or you enjoyed it. Keep subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.